Reach out. Speak up. Speak out. You are the voice of a new generation. And this
is your station.
Talk Radio 93.7 Citizen FM.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on another fresh edition of Insight on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence UMOETTE. As usual, a lot is happening in the media space. Controversies, policy issues, socio-political matters, all of them competing for attention. In both the traditional or mainstream media and in the social media. It's not always an easy task to shift a lot of all this information and get the real information to you out there. And that is what we do on Insight here, trying to decide what is fit for public consumption and what also is not at the end of the day. And to always do this, there are people who try to do this job. They are in the media circles, are called the gatekeepers. And one of them is here on Insight today, a regular guest, especially on Mondays, AMADIN. He is the bureau chief of News Central. And AMADIN is also the head of Northern Operations of that outfit. AMADIN, good to have you once again on Insight.
Lawrence, is always a delight to be on Insight on Citizens FM.
Thank you so much, and it's always a delight to drag you here on Monday, despite knowing that Mondays are always, hectic days for editors. AMADIN Uyi, apart from being an editor, is also a reporter. So, both caps, someone who is on the street and someone who also decides eventually what gets into the news at the end of the day. So he's both a foot soldier and a gatekeeper, if you may ask. So that's how it's going to be. We're going to look at some of the unfolding developments in the public space. You can join the discussion by joining our live stream on YouTube. Just type Citizen FM 93.7 and you will be part of this show. You can also listen to us online on www.citizenfm.ng. And our social media platforms are also available on Facebook at Citizen FM Abuja, on Instagram at Citizen FM 937, and also on Twitter at Citizen FM 937. So that's how it's going to be in the next 45 minutes or thereabout. We will take a look at the unfolding national and perhaps maybe international issues concerning Nigeria and Nigerians. AMADIN, straight up talking about international issues. Our president was at the ECOWAS summit over the weekend, and he spoke boldly about the need for the world to take Africa as a continent very seriously.
Yes, not ECOWAS, the AU summit.
That's the AU summit.
Now, it was the president's voice resonated loud and clear among African leaders, because you will agree with me that we have not achieved the AU of our dreams. The AU has not been able to pull its weight on issues concerning the continent, and the AU as a continental body, just like the EU, needs to pull its weight and be very clear about the direction it is holding. If you look at the international scene, there's this issue of the Russia-Ukraine war affecting food supplies in Africa. There's this issue on the deliberation of the BRICS summit, which is expected to hold in South Africa, whether Putin will come and he'll be arrested following the UN conventions they have signed onto. There are many issues that have requested our leaders to step up. We have seen from West Africa, we have seen the illegal taking over of governments by several militaries. We have Burkina Faso, we have Mali, we have others. And so the AU has not been able to speak and maintain its stand and say this is what we want. Therefore, you see, in several African states, several of its members, things are going upside down, topsy-turvy. So when the president spoke clearly, he first talked about the issue of coup d'etats, which is now becoming a common trend in Africa, saying the examples in West Africa have taught us a lesson that our leaders have not been able to learn from the past mistakes and not been able to call these governments to order. Because whether you like it or not, as a country, you cannot live in isolation. You need the support. You need, in terms of trade, free movement of professionals, and in terms of movement of services and others. So you need your neighbors, your fellow countries. So the president was very loud and clear in maintaining that this, and we are glad because it's been a long time we've heard of Nigeria's voice being this loud in the AU, saying no, this is, we are opposed to this, we are going to stand by. Remember when there was there was supposed to be a change of government in Gambia, and the president did not want to hand over, it took Nigeria to intervene, and Jammeh was brought out. The same thing happened in Cote d'Ivoire. It took Nigeria to intervene. The same thing happened in Sao Tome and Principe. It took Nigeria to intervene. So Nigeria has been a leader in the past, but in the last few years, we've not seen Nigeria's voice strong in condemning these issues and in making a move. Because when you talk about a country with over 200 million population, I said it the last time I came here, I said the entire voting bloc in West Africa is about 70 million, while the voting bloc in Nigeria alone is about 90-something million. So you see, conducting an election in Nigeria is like conducting in the whole of West Africa. So we are giving that respect. The election which many of us are despising, castigating our country, bringing down the country down, insulting people on social media, go outside and hear and just see how Nigeria has been perceived in the international community for conducting that election. You know that indeed they say a prophet is without honor in his own town. So the president went out, and for us who are keen observers, journalists, international, those involved in international politics, we are glad that Nigeria is going to, because for some time it looked as if South Africa was now dominating the AU. But now we have got a president who went and pulled his weight and said statements fellow African leaders might not like, but which we know are the truth and which we know will push Africa to the continent of our dreams.
Well, AMADIN, I like the last part of your submission. Yes, Africa needs to be forceful about its existence, but also it's not likely that the rest of the world will respect Africa when the leaders in Africa also have not lived up to expectation in terms of their leadership quality, in terms of respect for rule of law, in terms of how to do things in their country respectively. A lot of them become beggars, go cap in hand to some of these foreign powers. They depend on them for aid and everything, and you know how these countries do when they give you aid and everything. These things are not free. These things are not without strings attached. You know how it's done in international politics. So Africans too, African leaders too, and even African citizens too also need to live up to expectation. One, by holding their leaders to account and getting interested in the issues of governance.
Yes, that is why this Japa syndrome to some people is an easy way out. But whether you like it or not, is one of the things that makes us lose our respect. Look at the Mediterranean. You see how many Africans are trying to smuggle themselves. A lot of them die trying to cross the Mediterranean to Italy, to Spain, to Germany, because they don't want to stay and hold their governments to account. You know, we always say it, for a country to be successful, there are two responsibilities. There's a responsibility of government to the people, and there's a responsibility of the people to government. So if the people are not holding their government accountable and sit down, armchair pundits, and just say, and government is not trying, we want to run, that is a cowardly way out. Sorry to use that word for a lot of viewers who are thinking about it. That is a cowardly approach, because you must hold it. See what happened in Senegal just in the last few weeks, where the president was already musing for a third term. He forgot how he came in. Macky Sall forgot how he came in. But when he saw the opposition from within the Senegalese people, the Senegalese citizens, also from the sub-region, he had to come out last week and say he was not thinking about a third term, that he will respect the constitution. So this is the problem. A leader enters, he knows that the constitution gives you a 2-term limit. Towards the end of the second term, he now begins to get these ideas that if he can amend the constitution to run for a third term. The truth about the matter is that what you are creating is instability. Now you want to go for third term, so you still have in Africa where you have presidents that have ruled for over 25 years and they are still on the throne. It has become a family thing, a family property. They are already thinking of leaving. They are trying to bring out one of their child to replace it. So once our leaders continue to disrespect constitution, disrespect lay down laws, we are losing our respect. Then by the time you now see the country begin to retrogress, you now begin to run to European nations. A lot of them who are more, let's look at Ukraine. Ukraine have 40 million people. Ukraine have they have a conflict with Russia, but the whole Africa is crying. They have a conflict with Russia, but the whole Africa is crying of food security, food scarcity for a country with just 40 million. Nigeria, we are over 200 million. We are importing grains from Ukraine. Not only us, there are several African countries that are dependent on Ukrainian grains for survival. With a country with just 40 billion people. So once you cannot get your acts together, get your country to start doing the right thing, you find out that it will affect your economy, it will affect your people's perception to governance, it will even affect foreigners' perception to your people. So that's why I say, you know, when the president came on board, after he announced the removal of subsidy, there were statements that he made talking about Nigeria is not going to be doing the statements he made, that those keen observers of Nigeria's foreign policy became scared that this is a president that might want to focus only on Nigeria and not on the sub-region. It's just like taking US out of the equation in the world. There will be chaos, because whether you like it or not, yes, you might not like them, but some say they are the world police. They have given them that responsibility. They have put their investment there, and they have tried to see that they try to maintain law and order even in countries around the world. It took US to get up and say, no, Russia, what you are doing to Ukraine is not feasible. You cannot at this time be trying to annex lands, be citing several reasons and the rest, and they began funding the Ukrainians. So you see, it's the same thing when you say you want to take away Nigeria from the equation of Africa. You are going to cause a crisis. You are going to cause what should not be seen, because so many African countries look up to Nigeria. So many African countries, not only in the West African sub-region, but also in the continental level, at the level of the AU, they look up to Nigeria to lead the continent.
All right, AMADIN, let's come back home. Last week, the service chiefs were at the National Assembly, at the Senate, for screening, and as expected, the Senate gave them a clean bill of health, so they were all confirmed. Today, the service chiefs are expected at the House of Representatives for the same, what some people have called the same ritual, before they fully take on their responsibility. Is there anything going to change? Is there?
We expect them to be confirmed because the Senate has already confirmed them. Because once the convention in the National Assembly is that once you scale one of the chambers, the rest is just a walkthrough. And because by the time they sit down to harmonize their report, to do the gavel to gavel, harmonize their report, not much issues, very, very serious issues, the issues will be raised. So we expect them to be confirmed. We expect them to begin their work. The police, the military, the chief of army staff, chief of defense staff, chief of the air staff, chief of naval staff, the police. You saw the shocking videos of the police vehicle running over somebody in the Ekpoma area of Edo State. We hear that those police officers are presently under detention in the force headquarters. So you see that it tells you that the current IG of police has a lot of work on his hands, how to weed out these miscreants who are spoiling the name and image of the police force. The last IG did a very, very good job. He empowered the spokesperson, the force PRO, and also the state's PRO to also tackle beyond just speaking, also address issues of human rights. If it's a senior officer, they think they cannot handle it, they should push it to Abuja. And so the last IG performed excellently well in trying to rein the excesses of police. The current IG has told us that, in fact, the statement he makes is that he says it's like a tiger that is ready for action. That was the statement he made when he was at the villa. Nigerians want to see that tiger roar and that tiger perform his obligations. So it will not just be a talk in words alone. He has come out also. I remember when during one of his last briefings, he told the policemen that it will not be business as usual. That those of them who are in the habit of breaking laws because they think they are the custodians and keepers of the laws, that it will not be business as usual. We are still waiting to see how he's going to play out, because we have too many of them.
Maybe one of the ways to even know that the current IG is serious. Remember when he came in, he announced that there will be withdrawal of mobile policemen from VIPs. I understand yesterday there was a formal signal out for that.
Yes, there was a circular, and a lot of names were listed. Top people in the former government, and let's see if that will work.
Exactly. Well, it's still talking about service chiefs. It's not only the IGP. Some others are hitting the ground running. The Navy, for example, Amadin, you've noticed that in the last 1 week, there have been a lot of activities going on in the Niger Delta, discovery of illegal refineries and so many other things.
I'm still skeptical about the Navy. Let me tell you why. A few weeks ago, Asari came out to accuse them. So I think they are prompted by that allegation that they are part of the oil bunkering syndicate. So right now, they will have to prove themselves that they are really not part of it. When a lot of Nigerians are trying to throw brickbats over the allegation, I said it is good for us that a major player in the South has said this. Let us see how the Navy will be. Now, it will not put pressure on them to be able to leave this thing, adhere to, number one, tenets of human rights, be able to live up to their responsibilities and the rest. I don't think the Navy does not have the capacity to be able to tackle piracy and the rest. If you look at investments by the last administration, we saw the Falcon Eye project, we saw the Deep Blue project. So they are equipped to be able to handle piracy, handle it. So with the Falcon Eye, with the Deep Blue, we should not be hearing of piracy in the Gulf of Guinea. So, but just like you said, a lot of them have their work cut out for them. A few days ago, you heard one of the governors who had gone to the villa and told the president, come and help us end these activities of miscreants, trying to enforce a sit-at-home order, an illegal sit-at-home order, trying to frustrate people from their business. Now it is no longer a willing tool. I know that those days, the AWO people, they implemented the sit-at, but they did not force people. But in a case where you have to go to primary schools, flog children who are 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, that you're enforcing a sit-at-home, go and shoot traders, destroy their property, then you know that it is not an order that has popular support. It's just a few miscreants who are trying to take advantage of the situation. So For me, I know it's not a difficult situation to end. If our security operatives are serious, they can end that illegacy, that insecurity in the southeast, banditry in the northwest, terrorism in the north central, kidnapping in the northwest and in the southwest, and the rest.
Yes, I also remember that the military high command also told politicians, governors specifically, to give the military the opportunity to do their work, and you could deduce from that statement that there are sometimes conflicting interests at play in tackling insecurity in this area. That's one. Then two, Amadin, over the weekend we had the unfortunate news of the crash of the Air Force trainer aircraft. But what came out for me was how the Air Force handled that issue. They were spontaneous in giving out information and didn't leave anything to speculation. And fortunately also, there were no lives lost.
You see, that is what the press always craves for. If you have a public relations directorate or director that is quick, that when these things happen, they will... Okay, let me give an example. Yesterday we heard of the resignation of the APC national chairman. Up to today, the national publicity secretary has not said anything. The directorate, media directorate from his office have not said anything. So there are a lot of speculation in the air which have been rife. We expected the party to come out clean that yes, he resigned.
Oh no.
No, he didn't. Yes or no is not a hard thing. Are you understanding? Nigerians will not eat you. Are you getting? So you see, between last night till today, there have been a lot of speculations. Are you understanding? Nobody knows what it is. People are speculating. And most of the time, you leave time for speculation. You see the wrong news, which people now later say fake. Wrong news will now dominate the airspace. So what we have now is, when the Air Force crash happened, we are lucky that the Air Force, the Directorate of Air Force Public Relations quickly came out. You saw that issue did not was no longer a big story.
Exactly.
Because they came out to explain that this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. Except someone has an alternate information. When you have an alternate information, then you now come out, then speculation will begin, but nobody has been able to present anything. So for the crash, we commend the Air Force for trying to come out publicly and inform Nigerians on what exactly happened. And just like the routine that happens, the chief of the air staff will set up a panel to investigate, and we are waiting for that panel's report, then before we will be able to make conclusions on what happened.
Okay, Amadin, let's go back once more to the National Assembly, because they seem to be in the news. Some would say for some of the wrong reasons, but this time around, I don't know whether it's a wrong reason. It's hardly their problem, but the president is yet to send ministerial lists to them. We have how many days to go? The president has up to July 29th. At least by law, to do that. So there's still some, but speculations are mounting by the day.
Yes, you can't take it away. And like I said earlier, we hear that those making the list are being screened. We also hear that there will be a readjustment of ministries. Some ministries will be merged, some ministries taken away to be standalone, some will be created. We are waiting. Like I said, all this is still speculation, but information has been ongoing that several ministries will be rejigged, and we don't want to follow the rumors. But if it is true, I think it speaks well that the presidency knows the direction they want to take, and we are hoping that, just like you said, within the next, they still have a little over 2 weeks. Then we'll get the list and we'll move on.
All right, it's still Insight on Citizen FM 93.7, and we are taking a look at some of the unfolding national events happening in Nigeria in the public space. And my guest is Amadin, a veteran, so to speak, editor and reporter, a journalist, and the bureau chief of News Central. He's been helping us make sense of some of the issues. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we will continue with the program. Please don't go away.
Citizens Tech Talk with Mina, bringing you news updates on digital technology around us, discussing the latest development and how technology can enrich you and make your life more exciting. Citizens Tech Talk with Mina, welcome to our world of technology. Every Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 12, Citizens Tech Talk with Mina, expanding our global reach through technology.
Looking for the best in news updates? Yeah, man. Listen to Citizen FM 93.7 Abuja. Now listen. News on the hour, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and 5 p.m. News at noon, 12 noon. News from across the states, 4 p.m. And our major news at 6 p.m. Citizen FM 93.7. Always precise in news broadcast.
Ụmụnnem na ụmụnnam oge ndị Igbo na-abịaziri unu ụbọchị Satọde na ụbọchị Sọnde na weta aka n'elekere nke 4 oge ndị Igbo bụ oge anyị ji anọrị oge gị na-ekene ezepụ na-eji akpọrịkọta ụbụbọ kabarụ na-esonyela anyị nke a bụ nke anyị ụmụnnem daalụnụ.
Abuja. Wake up. Reach out. Speak up. Speak out. You are the voice of a new generation. And this is your station. Talk Radio 93.7 Citizen FM.
This is 93.7 Citizen.
Abuja. Wake up. Reach out. Speak up. Speak out. You are the voice of a new generation. And this is your station. Talk Radio 93.7 Citizen FM.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. It's still Insights on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence UMOETTE. We're at the second half of the program. My guest is still here, AMADIN, Bureau Chief, News Central, and also Head of Northern Operations. We've been looking at some of the unfolding political events across the country, especially those in the public space. AMADIN, before we leave the National Assembly alone, some would say, there is this story that has refused to go since last week. In the course of the supplementary budget, passing of the supplementary budget, there was this 70 billion naira that the lawmakers said it was allocated for a working condition of lawmakers. Some people have called it palliative, and there seems to be outrage in the public space. You have covered the National Assembly over the years, just like I have. But is this something to be outraged about?
Lawrence, with the state of the nation's economy, citizens have a right to be enraged, because sometimes you want to ask, what palliatives or better working condition do lawmakers receive when you look at the amount of salary they take home every day? So to approve like 70 billion for the Senate and the House of Reps, many Nigerians will see it as you trying to heap more. But how many members are they? For 70 billion, when sometimes a state does not get up to 2 billion in a month. A state with over 3 million people does not get up to 2 million in a month. So when you now hear that one person is taking 70 billion,
not one person.
Let me don't use the word one person. One agency rather. That's what I wanted to say.
Or one institution.
One institution is taking 70 billion. It's something that will not sit well with a lot of Nigerians. But whether we like it or not, they have approved it, and the money will go to them.
Well, AMADIN, I think, you see, sometimes maybe if Nigerians, if we have a breakdown of that money, Do you understand? And that's one. Then two, there seems to be a lot of skepticism about our public officers. We seem to look at everything concerning them with some amount of suspicion. Because one, this money, when they say for National Assembly members, not just the lawmakers, for the whole National Assembly bureaucracy, you have the Senate, the committees, you have workers there, you have, and it's furniture for a lot of things. So it's not, on one hand, we will want a National Assembly, we will want a lawmaker that is equipped with the best equipment in the world, with the best facilities, just like their counterpart across the world. On the other hand, when we hear 70 billion naira, we think, oh, this is rather too much. Do you think if we get a breakdown, we may have to change our mind somehow?
Lawrence, for me, this is a time where fuel has risen from 190 naira to 540 naira. Government is calling Nigerians to exercise patience, tighten their waist. Then when you now hear that this money is going to, no matter how you want to justify it, they have a budget. Are you understanding me now? Have workers' salary been increased? No. Have palliatives been rolled out yet? No. If that these things have already been put in place, and you now say you now want to go to this institution and see how you can we afford to make our lawmakers the most equipped in the world? We cannot afford it, because right now, look at the last budget, how much Nigeria has to borrow. So when you now imagine that the country is borrowing this kind of funds, and yet now trying to give out some members of the political class this kind of money to be able to, it will not sit well on Nigerians. Yes, their case might be genuine that they need it, but at this time where a lot of Nigerians are tightening their, they say perception is everything. This is not the kind of information Nigerians want to hear. Remember that 2 weeks ago, when it came out that the president had approved increase in salary for political officers, imagine the reaction. It took the presidency to come out and say that is fake news. Imagine how Nigerians reacted to it. Then this one now is now clear. So right now, Nigerians want to see the government walk the talk, want to witness results from the government.
So, Amadin, would it have been better if this was kept secret?
It had to. See, the truth about the matter is that it wasn't discussed openly. It was the members of the press that still brought it out.
Yes, that's
because
what
it took the evil eye of the press.
And it's just, Amadin, it's just a proposal. The money has not been released.
No, but we know that once it is passed, the money will be released. Okay. It took the eagle eye of journalists to say that this clause, this line is not sitting down well. Is this what this means? Before they were able to, if journalists didn't see it, it would have passed without anybody knowing.
All right, okay. So maybe we should just leave the National Assembly alone for now. A few days ago, can't remember the exact date, the vice president was in Kano, and one of the things he said was that there cannot be any military solution alone to the situation, to the insecurity situation in the Northwest, and that the government will soon come out with its plan of tackling this. Some people have canvassed this position over the years, that there need to be a combination of several strategies.
Yes, if you followed insecurity, you followed our terrorism prevention plan and the rest, you see there were two approaches that were proposed: a hard approach and a soft approach. The hard approach involves having boots on the ground, having security personnel there to tackle these terrorists, making life difficult for those in the Northeast. Remember that the vice president was the former governor of Borno State. He was the president of that state during the peak of the Boko Haram crisis. So when the vice president comes to tell you that a hard approach and a soft approach, he understands what he means, because where you have uncontrolled poverty, what you have done is that you have made those people victims to be recruited by terrorist groups and insurgent groups. Because if you follow the history of the Boko Haram terrorist group, they did not start as a militant group. They started as a social religious group that was helping people, giving loans to people to start businesses, helping people take care of medical conditions, and then preaching their message. By the time they had gotten hardcore followers, then they switched side and began to talk about attacking government, creating a caliphate out of the Nigerian territory, carving areas for themselves out of the Nigerian territory. So you see, even in their approach to start, they started first with a soft approach, then they got to a hard approach. Now, for government to be able to tackle them, government has to also follow that route, because the poor man, he understands only one language, and that is the language of food. It is who gives him food that is loyal to the hungry man. Maslow's theory of needs tells you about security, tells you about shelter, tells you about clothing, tells you about education. These things have to come into play before people can think of other activities. So if you go to this, and Lawrence, I have been to these places. You know, sometimes people talk about poverty. I look at them when they say poverty, marginalization. My brother, go to some of these places, you will redefine the poverty you know. You redefine it. Some of these places in the core northeast and in the northwest, and when you go there, you tell yourself that your definition of poverty before was wrong. Now you have seen poverty. That's exactly how it is. So these people are really poor. So when the vice president comes out to say, now we are going to, this government is going to marshal out two approaches, is what has already been agreed in the terrorism prevention plan of the federal government, where EXPA came and said, see, it's not only trying to shoot this insurgent, the people that have not yet converted to them, try to reach out to them, provide basic needs for them, and then they will not be joining the terrorist groups in droves. So I think the vice president was spot on when he came out, and without sentiment, considering the fact that I covered the northeast, I covered the Boko Haram insurgency, I covered the crisis in the northeast, especially when the vice president was governor. I was in Maiduguri several times. I can tell you that what he's speaking is the gospel truth. No matter how you want to color it, no matter how you want to paint it, that is the only approach to stop the insecurity in the northeast or in the north.
You can join the discussion. The phone lines are open now, 0903 2229797. That's 0903 2229797. Or you can call us on 0818 2222205. That's 0818 2222205 or 0818 2222206. Any of the numbers, you can also send us a WhatsApp message and let's talk. We are looking at insecurity, we are looking at the economy, we are looking at the media, everything happening in the public space. And my guest is AMADIN Oye of the News Central. So we are looking at this since AMADIN. Since we are talking about the insecurity from the northwest now, let's move over to the southeast. There seems to be a conundrum there now. The political leaders are finally, gradually, boldly speaking up now. This was not the case some 5, 6, 7 years ago, AMADIN.
Yes, when we were speaking about it, even us as journalists, some accused us of a bias. But the truth about the matter is that the truth is the truth. I remember I always used to say that when I was growing up, one of my favorite songs was sung by Tracy Chapman, Bang Bang Bang. And that song says that when you give a child a gun, when there's nobody else to shoot, he'll turn back to you, his father, his mother, his brother and sister. That is exactly what is happening. First of all, now this group have gone beyond, this armed group have gone beyond attacking innocent citizens, and they are now attacking members of the political class. So definitely the political class will speak out. We have heard of so many murders. Remember the husband of the late Professor Dora Akunyili, who was killed just mercilessly for no good reason. We've seen videos of the army couple who were murdered, lawmakers who will be murdered, beheaded, and their head going to be posted in public places. So it has gotten to the point in time where somebody has to speak out, and no other person than those who reside in such areas. They say you cannot cry for the bereaved. The bereaved has to shed tears. Then when you cry, your own cry will be supporting tears. You cannot be the person crying while the bereaved is smiling. So now that the political class have gotten up to say we want to speak out, remember, let me tell you a situation that we should not forget, that when during election, when that notorious personality staying far away Nigeria was saying that there was going to be a sit at home during elections and the rest, it took the Southeast group abroad and in Nigeria to petition him to the Finnish government. It got to the point where, based on their petition, the Finnish government had to arrest the Simon Ekpa. I heard that he has been released. But you see, there are groups in the Southeast who do not support this. Our problem was that before, they were too afraid to speak. We are glad that they are now speaking. It's just not starting now or last week. In the last few months, many of them are now speaking because they are realizing that it is the region that suffers more from the activities of these armed unknown gunmen. Whether you call them Eastern Security Network, whether you call them IPOB, I don't care what nomenclature you give them. But all I know is that it is the region and the people in the region that suffer.
But Amadin, there is also a critical group that should speak out, but they are not. And this is a group of people who may not agree with the government in power, who may not like the personalities of government in power. Because of that, they have simply just refused to speak out to condemn these things.
That is why we said it's escalated to the point where it got to. If not, it would have not been this strong, because almost everybody decided to speak out. Some were even speaking for them, thinking they were masquerading themselves as freedom fighters. They are not freedom fighters. They're a bunch of nitwits who just pick up arms and terrorize the people. You know how many police stations were burned, set ablaze within the last year, within the last 12 months? How many police officers were murdered in cold blood? These are not police officers from other region. They are children of that region. How many INEC facilities did election not hold? How many INEC facilities were set on fire? So at a point in time, like you said, maybe some spoke out, but their voices were not loud enough. Right now, they have all seen that we are here where we are condemning attempts at burning INEC offices. Did it stop election from holding? It didn't. So many of them are now seeing it that these miscreants are just making life difficult for the people. Because when you burn federal facilities or state facilities in your own area, you are burning facilities that belong to you. The Nigerian government is not separate from the people. I always say it, that when we wanted to contest, we did not go and import people from Ghana or Cameroon or whatever country you want. It is Nigerians that contested these elections. So if you have a disagreement with these Nigerians, you should be able to sit down. There's a Yoruba adage that says that after every fight, the fight will be resolved at the negotiating table. So why don't you begin at the negotiating table? If you begin at the negotiating table, there will be no need for taking up of arms. But no matter how angry you are, no matter how angry you are, you take weapons and the rest. The truth about the matter is that you will still end at that negotiating table that you refuse to go to. So these are the issues.
After a lot of damage would have been done, Amadin, remember also briefly, because we have less than 2 minutes, in fact 1 minute to go, when the Boko Haram issue also started in the northeast. We remember 10 years ago.
Yes, people still thought they were freedom fighters.
Yes, a lot of people tried to color it as a religious battle, as an attempt to attack certain group of people and everything. And when the heat was on them, they eventually started speaking out.
Perfectly.
So that's our package on Insight today, Amadin. Thank you so much for your appearance. As usual, we really hope that you have a beautiful week ahead. Thank you so much, Amadin.
Thank you very much, Lawrence.
Well, that's our package on Insight today. The program returns tomorrow, where we will discuss another issue. My name is Lawrence UMOETTE. Have a beautiful day ahead. News on the Hour comes up at 11 o'clock.